everyone! In previous videos, I talked some about the importance of feeling that you have a stable reality. What happens is, if you're truly working with yourself, is that your reality and how you see and view reality will change. Your view of yourself will change. One example of this is that we may have several identities and we don't even think about that we're actually shifting between them. One of these identities you may call the system identity. This is the persona that you show to the outer world, meaning you have to do certain things to be successful in the outer society. You may know at the same time that you take on your work costume, your work clothes, that you're going to perform a certain role. And it's almost like you entering into a game. And if you perform it very well, you will be rewarded, whatever the reward in this particular game is. And if you have to dedicate enough time to this game, you may even start to believe it yourself. Suddenly you are that lawyer, and your whole nurturing, your whole reward is based on the recognition that you may get as a successful lawyer in this system, in this game, with this particular reward. And you become so fixated on that game because this reward is sufficient and good enough for you, or so you say. And if you don't have to invest so much time on your work, you will have time to spare to maybe be in another identity. And by another identity, you may connect to what you call your spiritual identity, which seem to live in another game all entirely, in another reality all entirely, right? You can't take then this spiritual identity into the courtroom, so to speak. When you are a lawyer, you are a lawyer. When you are in your spiritual world, you are in your spiritual world. And then you may think that, well, yeah, that's a bit strange. This kind of character lives here and performs like this, and this character lives here and performs like this. And you know what? When I have to meet my parents-in-law, I have yet another identity. And these might pile up. But usually we may not have time to invest in too many identities and too many realities with too many different reward systems. So we choose few that we put a lot of focus on. You recognize yourself in this? Guilty as charged. So then we might try to do this. Okay, I think I have to invest in my system persona, in my personality, my identity that I show to the outer world, in my lawyer identity. Let's say that, for example, you're a successful lawyer. I have to put resources into this character, into this game. I have to focus on this game, not that game, this game. So I will take from this realm, if I have a spiritual identity as well, I might take some magical gifts from this spiritual world and I put them into this system identity, this lawyer character. So maybe then he will be enhanced to get even more rewards in his game. And some think this is fair game. This is good. This is the meeting perfect of two worlds. But then if you think about it, is it really? Because you are still then only investing in this lawyer character. You're not, obviously not, investing in the spiritual reality. You're investing in this reality, not the spiritual world. You are literally trying to take resources from this to invest in that. Another way of saying this is perhaps when the so-called then rich countries plunder other continents for their resources, depriving these continents of their resources so they can thrive. So whatever you are doing, you have to be very aware that during the day, you have to choose which reality and character that you invest in. And the character you invest in is the reality that you put the most value in. You say to yourself that of these different realities that I can go and pretend that I exist in, this gives me the most benefit. Let me give you another example. Let's say that you have a son that is only playing video games during the day. Guess what? That is his reality. He may spend enormous amount of time in the computer world, in the game world of his computer game. There is where he lives, and he gets his rewards by performing in that game. That game may come with its own set of rewards. So this is the so-called reality that we are entering into right now. And your biggest question is, what identity should I put resources on? And what reality is that identity performing in? If I'm investing all my time in a computer game, then I say that I want to invest my energy into this game, into the game world, which we may think, if we think about it objectively, that makes little sense. And if we think about this lawyer character or some other character that we are playing in the outer world to gain the rewards of recognition and money, for example, that seems extremely important to us, right? Then that is the world and reality we are investing in. And we may think that that is not right. I mean, I work hard, my money goes to the state who gives it to war to kill people. Maybe that is bananas, maybe it makes no sense. But how can I start to invest my energy in another identity and in another reality? And of course you understand the logic that whatever reality we invest our time in, that reality will obviously grow. But what I want to focus on in this video is what this means to you and your identity and who you are. Because I will give you yet another challenge. I will continue to talk about this in these videos because this takes a lot of reflection before it really sinks down. Humans have little real concept of what they are, to be serious here. They don't know about reality and they don't know who they are. That is absolute fact. So in order to approach this subject, I want to help you to start to view yourself in a different light than perhaps you're doing right now. I already confused you about that you may shift from different identities. Maybe this was not something that you even reflected on before, so sorry to bring that up, but to put that to your awareness. Just like you can create a lot of different chatbots characters, you can create a lot of characters for yourself, so to speak. But we want to now ground ourselves to focus about who you really are and what's really going on. So, as I said, many people are protecting themselves from going too really deep on working with themselves. Because what happens then, that if I am this successful lawyer and I go to a psychologist and a therapist that works very deep with my inner trauma and blockages, if I think that this is going to be leading to me getting more successful, getting even more recognition, getting even more money, then maybe I'm not getting it. Because what deep work with yourself means is that you will probably reprioritize what your reality is. You may find, for example, that why you are putting so much focus on this is because no one saw you when you were a kid and you wanted recognition, and you picked up that the rules of the game when you grew up was to be successful and productive, but this is not the real you. So here we have a problem. And I think that almost every one of us has figured out that how society is right now is not optimal. It can't be the optimal reality for the human species because it doesn't work. People are depressed, people are stressed, they are alone. It's not supposed to be like this. So then you may find answers that you don't want to have. Answers that doesn't give you the will anymore to keep performing in that identity like that character. So many people, they don't want to hear, they don't want that help. Many will actually do this, and society is to blame as well. I think that the psychological help that you can get from, official societies today is very shallow, and it's not meant to go very deep, because you are meant to be adapted basically to this character that is performing in this outer society. you're not supposed to go there and be more spiritual and to nurture your spiritual identity, if you get what I mean. So what happens is usually that you can feel that, oh, I have a problem. Ooh, it's scary. I don't want to look at it because it makes me afraid. It makes me feel anxious. I don't want to look at it. But you know what? I go to this therapist, I go to this psychologist, and I pay him or her money. And money can sometimes cheat us, because now I paid you money. Now this is your problem. Here you go. Take my problem and solve it for me, because I bought it away. Just like countries can have a lot of pollutions in the air, and they pay another country to sort of take that pollution on themselves, even if they are the ones doing the pollution. It makes no sense. So you give your problem away and you say, this is not my problem anymore. You are the expert, solve it. And it makes you relax. That's why you relax so much when you go to a professional, because you actually paid for it. Now it's no longer your problem. So the professional looks at this, has no idea what it is, and he can't go inside of you and just take away all your responsibility. So this is imaginary. He gives it a name, and you have this problem. I call it by this name. Oh, really? Okay. You have this definition and this problem, and this is your identity. You have ADHD or autism or avoidance or whatever it is. This is your problem, and maybe this is the medicine that you have to take. Now go home and be free, so to speak. You will not be free. You will go into this identity, and what happens? Well, why are we investing in certain identities? Because they make us safe, right? If you are in the lawyer identity game, it is because you are safe and you are sufficiently getting rewarded, so you stay there. Or maybe this lawyer world crashes. He has a scandal, he loses his job, and he starts to invest in his spiritual character, right? When we face a life crisis and one world or reality breaks for us, we jump into another one and we try to nurture ourselves there. And one may wonder, what the hell are we doing? Why are we doing this? No wonder we get in a crisis because we don't know who we are and we really don't know what we're doing. But we want to invest wherever it's stable. But it will never be stable outside of us. Stability can only come from inside of us. So now we have jumped into this defined problem that you are ADHD, autism, avoidance, narcissism, whatever it is. That would be hard to cure, right? But we get into this identity. So we live our lives here until that crashes as well, or whatever. It's not really productive, and we have to deal with this ourselves. But the problem is, what is this then? What is it that pushes me to continue going into these realities and to find stability? Could this have been solved with a good childhood? Not necessarily. So now it doesn't matter if I have a good childhood or not. No, what I mean is, if you had a somewhat stable childhood, you probably thought that this world is okay, and you probably adapted to this society, even if it's not good. Maybe you had a higher likability that you will, higher probability that you will follow the news, that you will do as everyone says. You don't want to rock the boat, because why put yourself in danger unnecessarily? But if you already come from a crisis, if you already can't adapt to the current society, you are more likely to go into the spiritual field, so to speak, or be extremely successful. Usually, if you come from trauma, you become very successful or very spiritual. Usually, you don't end up in the so-called normal character identity world. So, if this have confused you enough, it's not to confuse you, it's actually to ground you back to yourself. So don't worry, I'm not going to leave you in this state of, oh my God, I should be in a crisis. No, relax. This is what you can do. So it's not the outer persona that is the real you, so to speak. I will speak more about this in the actual next video. I will talk about the purpose of why you're here and how that is connected to your true identity. That will be exciting. But what is happening is that everything is sort of run from within, from your within system. So if you would say that your true creator energy comes from the heart, and the heart goes up to your brain, the brain figures out what you have to do and what should happen, what you have to resolve and what you have to figure out. And this is poured out to you, like your instincts, your passions, what you feel that it is that you need to do. All you can do in this journey of so-called life is to figure this out, is to resolve. You will kind of automatically be drawn into certain situations, certain contexts, where certain so-called problems or challenges arises. You will also have certain desires and passions in your nature. Sometimes these problems, these situations will hurt really much. And sometimes you may find that certain situations tend to repeat themselves, so you find yourself in similar patterns. This is not because you're cursed or anything like that. I mean that you have very bad luck. Why doesn't this happen to my friend? Why does this always happen to me? My friend gets away with that kind of behavior. I never get away with this kind of behavior. That is not because God doesn't like you or anything like that. It's just that your particular brain is trying to solve a particular problem. And you are the conductor. You are the vehicle that helps the brain resolve this unfinished business. This, I haven't figured this out. I have to balance this in my head and this and this and this. And it brings you into certain situations. So your job is not to have to figure your life out. Because I just stated your character can shift at any given day or moment. One day you are this lawyer character, next day you are a Buddhist monk. And you can shift because who invented the concept of lawyers? We did. Who invented the concept of monks? We did. Or particular Buddhist monks? We did. So if the kid is invested in a video game, or if you are invested in playing a monk or a lawyer, it's kind of the same. Only you can argue that you relate to more real human beings when you are outside a computer game, at least. But it's still characters. So I'm asking you to kind of see this, that these are different characters that you are focusing on, because you are trying to find a stable reality here. But you can't really figure the stable reality out. And you're not supposed to, you don't have to. But you will feel safe, and you will feel grounded, and you will feel that you're really fulfilling yourself once you go with the natural flow. And the natural flow is not an easy path, but it is a fulfilling path, because it will actually lead you to be exactly where you should be when you should be. And this is not some spiritual whatever ever. This is very connected to natural law of how universe operates. Like if you were completely disconnected and you could go and do whatever the heck you wanted, then you couldn't exist. What do I mean by this? Because the conscious you that is perceiving this, that is watching this video, that is thinking, that is giving yourself a name and identity, that is giving your friends different names and identities, that part is a small part of the rest of your complex system. This small conscious you can't really create. And what do I mean by that? The creative power that you use when you live comes from inside. And because it comes from inside, that means that your brain, your inner system, is always a part of everything you do and manifest. And if you try to suppress your real nature and your real inclination, you will find yourself getting nowhere, or you will find yourself being extremely dependent on the outside. And the greatest example of this, I think, is where the current world is going with the robotics and the AI systems and advanced technology. Because I'm not going to say a bad person. No one is bad. They don't know better, okay? They will suppress what the brain and heart, so to speak, what it produces, what it wants to resolve, the mission. It will block that because there is a lot of pain. And that's for another video. But there is a reason why we don't go inside ourselves. And then we really have no energy to create. We are powerless. This is why I'm going to talk more about how you get superpowers. Because if you decide to cooperate with yourself, you're going to release superpowers, like literally superpowers. But it's your powers. Because here is the creative force. But if you block that, you do not have access to that energy and that creative force. So then you have to use energy from the outside. And here we see the energy problems. Here we see I have to buy a lot of energy. I have to build a lot of machines. I have to use outward technology because I don't have the power to manifest and create self anymore. So the more you're going to find a person disconnected from nature, the more they're going to start building artificial stuff, the more they're going to invest in technology. If you think about this picture where you see nature on one side of the image and you see this city on the other side. And if you think that this city was built by killing this living nature to create something dead, now the dead is expanding. And if you imagine that it would be skyscrapers all over Earth, we would no longer be alive. Because we're doing it wrong. Like, your computer can't reproduce. You're not going to wake up the next morning and you have 2 computers or 3 computers because they mated and they reproduce themselves. No, they're dead. They can't create. We have to take outward energy to use it to harvest resources and to build this stuff. And we need constantly more energy. You see this Matrix scene where the robots have basically made humans into living batteries because you need energy, and we are generating energy naturally. Nature is generating energy naturally. Not because it has endless of energy, it's because we are energy in our relationships. There is a sort of magic to the number 2 and 3, and I'm not going to bring this up either, but basically your purpose is generating automatic movement. And we don't need any outward energy source in order to produce action and movements. So that's a lie. The reason why we are in an energy crisis and we can't pay for energy and all of this is because we are like suppressing our real nature, our real energy source, and we're trying to take it from the outside. So this is very toxic. So you're going to find that the more a person is invested in technology and invested in the artificial, the less they are in contact with themselves. And you can see how this person also behaves, because it's going to be more problematic to reproduce, to have children, to have a loving family, because you're kind of shutting yourself down emotionally wise, living wise, from your own body, from your own nature, from your own creative force. And we're seeing this today. People are giving birth to less children. And you're actually going to see a world where all the creativity is basically gone on the outside. You're not going to be able to take sustenance and nurturing from the outside anymore. So what you want to do now to be grounded is to stop looking too much on the outside, stop investing too much of your precious energy, going around like a crazy rabbit in different characters, but really take yourself back and start listening more to your body. And I will definitely talk more about that and how you can do that in a practical way. But what is coming from inside here, gives you energy in order to manifest real things in your life, for real, for you. And you as a person don't have to figure things out. As I said, there are no real lawyers or Buddhist monks or anything. We have invented these characters. There is a chess player. There is a postman. We invented the characters in the game that this outer society is that we build. But real reality is to be found by our own manifestation of who we are. That is how we figure it out. Like the seed on the outside, figure itself out by living. So don't try to understand it beforehand, just try to live. And if you feel now completely confused, okay, Susan, but I find myself here in my flat with my bills to pay, with my current job, and I have responsibility for a family, what do I do? You start becoming more present. That's what's happening. You're going to start being more present. And what you're going to find is that the power to create from within and to actually create changes is actually very amazing. But the less we focus on this, the more stressed we are on these particular topics that we have to take care of. I have to take care of getting money. I have to take care of the family. I have to take care of. And I focus so much on that. And I focus so much on pressure of what I need to do. I need to do this or everyone will die. We suppress this. By bringing this into the situation, you're going to find there's going to be more of a cooperative nature outside. Maybe your family will start cooperate better. Your workplace will start acting nicer. It's almost like things are then shifting at the same time as you bring the presence from within into the situations. So you are no longer staring at the outer objects. You're using it by being present from within. you're entering into these situations without judging them too much. So this I will talk definitely more about in the coming videos on how you can do this, because this is not something that's going to happen maybe over a day. You will slowly practice to not focus on the so-called game characters or outer identities, but you will start to be more of an observer of how these games are really playing and what you can bring into life in order to start bringing forth real reality. And yes, real reality, what is that? I will discuss this more and more. And this is just to give you the idea that the anxiety that you feel when you wake up usually comes from your investment in a particular character where you believe in that game so full-heartedly that you can't even stay for a minute to even reflect that this is a made-up character with sort of, I'm not going to say made-up problems, but this is still a situation where you feel that you have to do certain things for this character in order to get these rewards. And these are the only rewards that can give you a fulfilling life and nurture you. But it's actually just your perception. If you would think of a starving kid in Africa who wants food and water, that's his reality, and he will be happy once he gets it. And then you think about this lawyer who maybe is through a scandal and loses his position and status, and it's devastating for him that he kills himself. We can make believe of what is nurturing, but we're often false in this. If perhaps all of these fake roles disappeared, and we all were back in Africa figuring out how to get food and water, living together, taking care of each other and our basic needs, it's a high likability we would be a lot psychologically healthier and happier with less stress and more love in our lives and more meaningfulness in our lives. And it can seem scary to even challenge these identities and these characters and these games. But that's what we're going to do and see where it leads. Okay, I'm sure you have a lot of questions and maybe just reflections or thoughts. Please leave those in the comments, because we learn from each other and we will figure this out together. And also come with suggestions if there's anything you'd like to hear more about. Just write it in the comments. And I see you again next week. Bye for now.